It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's the podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and piercers talk about some of the more common concerns and questions that those that have body art have and other forms of body modification.
Or even ones that don't.
Yeah, you know, maybe you're just curious. Yeah. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and Death Before Decaf. Hey, we're starting season 2. Got a new table. We're looking fancy. We got lights. We're almost professional.
Our cover is a little funky.
Got Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, and
big addition.
And Jimmy Two Cheeks.
We've been dating Jimmy here for a few months. How long you been? You've been at the Skin Kitchen now about almost a month, hasn't it? A little over.
Yeah, it's been about a month now.
You still haven't gotten through those 90 days.
No, still trying to make it. Hoping for that insurance and then all that 401k.
Right, yep.
That you'll find somewhere else.
Yeah, well, sign up for your
tattoo.
Obamacare and shut up.
Why don't you give us a quick background? How long you been tattooing now?
Let's see. Been tattooing since 1999 and started out in Virginia tattooing. Did a bunch of convention traveling before I settled into a bunch of street shops in Virginia. Worked at the original Red Dragon. True Tattoo, worked with a bunch of old guys from the Bowery, you know, just kind of went around until I met this guy.
What type of shop was it then, like street shop?
A lot of street shop tattoos.
Was that military stuff at that point?
Oh, yeah. You have one of the largest naval bases in the world there in Norfolk and Virginia.
So that's really kind of where Americana tattooing really kind of got its roots, really, is the sailors and all that. So the older guys, how old of a guys were you working with, and were they involved in any of that kind of stuff?
When I started out, I worked with a lot of older guys, like a lot of bikers, a lot of old, like, Bowery guys. Bowery Stan was around from New York a lot. Let's see, it was Sailor Bill was down there. A lot of people had those monographs. J.D. Crow's down there. He has Cherry Creek Flash.
Yeah.
And he has the tattoo shops down in Virginia Beach.
Right.
So, you know, we grew up checking all that out and running around.
Pause here. I guess I didn't realize that our first question was our origin.
Well, no, that's perfect.
Yeah, we can roll into that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
No big deal.
Okay. I was going to pause it so you can cut that part out.
No, that's fine. We're going to leave that in.
No, yeah.
We're going to leave that in.
Yeah. You know, sometimes when segues work out so perfect, someone's got to come in and fuck it up. So,
fair enough.
No worries.
You're welcome. So, yeah, that's our question today. It's probably a question. I've been asked this question probably thousands upon thousands of times. It's a really common question, and that is what's your origin story? How did you get into tattooing or piercing, and how did you go through the process of becoming an artist? So, who wants to go first?
Well, I think we should keep on rolling with Jimmy.
Yeah, I don't mind.
So you're down in the Bowery?
We're down in the Bowery. We are doing a lot of tattoos on sailors. We also have one of the largest Army bases in the country right there, Fort Lee. So, you know, we have buses and vans bringing soldiers in. Man, we were tattooing, you know, from noon until 2 or 3 in the morning. It was just, you know, it was like the old days you hear about.
Yeah.
And we just tattooed, you know, nonstop. It was a lot of fun. And then, you know, I started doing the circuits and traveling. I wanted to see what else is out there. I wanted to start seeking out some other artists. And then we met Buzz, me and Jack.
What year did you?
That was in, I think, 2009, the first year I came out and did Sturgis.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah, because it was 69th, so it was 2009.
Okay.
So that was my first year I did it. And I met Jack. And, man, it's just, we've been making history ever since.
Yeah, man, yeah.
So what was your first tattoo, and what was your first introduction to tattooing when you were younger?
Actually, I was always kind of fascinated with tattooing. It's funny you bring that up. I was in, I think, 8th grade, and I hated reading books, man. I hated to read a book. It just put me to sleep. I couldn't stand it. And I was my teacher took us to the library and told us we had to do a book report. So I'm bringing, like, popular mechanics and how-to books. I'm like, anything but a book. And she's like, you better get a book or you're going to fail. I'm like, all right. So I'm looking around. It's almost time to go. And I stumble on this book. It's called Stoney Knows How. That's about an old tattooer, I think in the 20s, and he was born, he's handicapped, and he was in Kentucky, and he ran off and joined the circus and taught himself how to tattoo. Became one of the godfathers of tattooing. But I checked that book out and did a book report on it, man. I liked that book so much that I checked it out probably four or five more times that year, and then I stole it before I went to high school. I think I still have that book at my
And you
mom's
discovered
house.
you like reading.
Not as much.
No, not so much.
Not so much, but I learned how to, do a lot of shit, and I learned about tattooing, and he told about how to get into it and like what to do, and just keep on persevering. If it's what you want to do, just keep at it. It'll eventually pay off.
Right on.
But what about you guys? How'd you get into it?
Oh, well, me. I didn't like tattoos as a kid. I thought they were kind of dumb, ironically. And then I was on a road trip. I just graduated high school. It was the day of my 18th birthday, and my buddies and I had been talking about going on a road trip out to California to see some friends and stuff, and my grandparents. And second day on the road trip out there, we stopped at a concert, and I got my first tattoo. And I didn't really even want to get it, but
Like in a tent?
Yep.
Is that when the guy
outside
was
the
sweating
concert.
on it?
Yep. Yeah, it was definitely not a great situation. It was like 25,000
gross.
people partying an outdoor concert with a bunch of bands, and I couldn't find a merch table if there was one, and I'm sure there was, but it was a huge outdoor concert, so couldn't find it. But I found this tattoo shop out there doing tattoos, so I was like, whatever, I'm gonna get my first little tattoo.
I can't find a T-shirt, but I'm taking something home.
Yep, exactly that. I'm gonna remember this trip. So after that, my mom found out I got my first tattoo. She wanted to get her first tattoo with me, so
That's
I
a
had to
good
go
reaction.
get my second tattoo. And after that, I was pretty well hooked. I started walking around from shop to shop asking, how can I learn how to do this? I don't want to sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life. So one guy gave me a shot, and I just kept pushing forward from there. I worked at one shop for a couple of years, and then bounced out to California again. Worked at a handful of other shops, and yeah, just kind of did my own little tour and stuff too. And I've done a couple of conventions, had some fun with them. But yeah, I just kind of fell into it and have enjoyed it ever since. So
It beats working.
yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those real jobs.
I mean, you're poor for a long time before you actually build a name for yourself. It
Oh,
took
yeah.
me a long time before I, stopped eating ramen noodles.
Yeah, there's a lot of ramen noodles, a lot of roommates,
Yeah.
a
Peanut
lot
butter.
of living,
Yep.
multiple
Spaghetti
people
sauce.
to,
Yeah.
multiple people to one apartment, and
Oh yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, I had in my coming up story, I had a studio apartment that had I don't know if I can count as high as many roaches were in that place. I would go through like a pump bottle, like a Windex bottle of bug spray, like a day.
Mm-hmm.
I would like shoot them off the walls. I'd put it on stream, and it was like I'd lay on the bed, and it was just three rooms if you count the closet where the toilet was. Rooms, three tiny little rooms, and so your bed was your couch, was your chair, was your everything.
Yeah.
So I'd lay on my bed, watch the TV, and I'd shoot roaches off the wall. But before that,
roach hunt.
Well, you didn't need PlayStation or Nintendo.
Nah, man, you got
That's
duck
that's
hunt.
the full-on ghetto video
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
That's roach hunt.
I had a VCR. A VCR I bought at a pawn shop, which I ended up pawning back to another pawn shop because I needed the money. But anyway, no, I never really liked tattoos or really even thought about them. I guess I didn't really have an opinion on tattoos when I was growing up. My dad was a police officer, so if I ever really came in contact with a tattoo, it was probably on a bad guy.
Yeah, somebody's getting arrested.
Yeah, and I wasn't, one of the super rough and tumble kids that, really, I don't know, was really involved with any of that. I just never really came across my radar. And, I was growing up in like the 70s and 80s and stuff, and they were just not that big a deal. Well, then hair metal came out. And you started seeing like Axl Rose and, Winger, all these guys, and you saw some tattoos, and so it kind of caught my eye. Well, one day a buddy of mine said, "Hey, we should get we should get a tattoo sometime." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I never. And this was before I started actually looking at kind of getting interested in the magazine stuff. I hadn't even thought about tattoos up till this point when he even mentioned it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "What the?" I'm like, "That's like the weirdest thing anyone's ever said." Well, but it kind of put it in my brain. It kind of put a seed in my brain. I started thinking, I'm like, "Yeah, I guess tattoos are kind of cool." Mm-hmm. So then I started looking at them. That's when I kind of, hair metal was coming up. I started seeing these tattoos and all that. So it just so happened my buddy came back from military school, and he had this little cross on his hand, and I was like, holy that's so cool. You know, I was probably 16, 17. I was like, what? How? How? And he's like, oh, me and the guys did it, you know, back at school. And I was like, I want one. Oh, I want one. I want one. He's like, well, go get me a needle, this and that and that, and that's what I need, and I'll do it. And I was like, okay. So, man, we went out and scavenged around the art supply stores and stuff, got everything we needed, went back to the house and grabbed a tennis ball, and he started poking my hand with this needle and stuff. And so since I got that little cross in my hand, I knew how to do it. And I'd been kind of artsy, you know, drawing, and my dad was an artist. I was sketching and painting and, you know, doing all that stuff. So, of course, well, that's a different kind of art. And that's really cool. Yep. Man, it doesn't wash off. I mean, wow. So, anyway, so that really kind of got me excited about it. Well, me being, you know, kind of a lot of kids that were, or a lot of artists that are artists now were artists when they were kids, so they're kind of known as the arty kid. And I, you know, I was kind of one of those kids. So when they saw me with a tattoo and knowing I'm an arty kid and knowing I know how to do it, they're like, I want one. So okay, so I started just doing these little stupid hand poke things. Most of those people have been hit by buses. No offense, you're all great people. No, I'm joking. But anyway, so I did that stuff for a while, and then it started getting closer. I was graduating high school, and I'm like, oh, crap, I got to decide what I want to be when I grow up. And so I had like a year, maybe two, of kind of screwing around with these little things and just getting my hands on anything I could involving tattoos. Because back then, this was about 93 or 92, there was really, there's no magazines, there's no TV shows, nobody gave a crap about them.
We had tattoo magazines, but it was like buying a Playboy or a Hustler.
Yeah, you could know.
I used to, that's how I knew all the guys at the gallery, which was a local, it was because that's where we went to buy books for the shop.
Yep, and that's where I started finding them, and I'd go in there and buy them there. But anyway, so it was really hard getting info, and there was only 2 shops in town back then. Sherry Sears, which we've had on the program before, was one. Awesome. And then there was this other kind of fly-by-night place that was in town.
Which one was it then?
I think it was the Co-op.
Oh, the Tattoo Co-op. Yes, famous for their ATF raid.
Oh, yeah. Those were the days. So anyway, I ended up asking Sherry back in the day. I was like, you know, would you be interested in apprenticeship? She's like, nah, I just wouldn't be interested. And I'm like, okay, you know, I had to ask. So then there was really no outlet for me tattooing. I was kind of stuck at that point. The opportunity came up to move to Arizona, and I thought, well, I never really thought about living there necessarily, but there's got to be a lot more going on there tattoo-wise than there is in Des Moines, Iowa, so sure. So I drove out there with nothing to my name and moved into that little hole in the wall with all the roaches. And, man, what happened just in that time is another whole freaking episode. But I ended up meeting the right person who happened to own a few shops, and I made some small talk. I had some tattoos on myself that I had done. That was, I guess, my portfolio. And she said, well, you know, I'm opening up this shop, and if you want, you know, if you want a job, let me know. Gave me your card. And I was like,
Yep.
Like that day, I think I quit my job.
Oh, yeah.
And the shop wasn't even open yet. You know? I was like unemployed for a month and a half, you know, waiting for the shop to open. I was just like, ah. So anyway, I kind of got my foot in the door that way. I was just self-taught and just, you know, I would tattoo on anybody that would let me and just try to soak up as much info as I could. And man, the first tattoo magazines I had, if I had a penny for every time I flipped a page in one of those, I would never have to work a day in my life, man. I just studied those things. So I've just been lucky enough to work not only in really high volume shops, but work in or around people that are good, that are passionate about it, that want to succeed, that are happy and willing to share what they know with someone who's passionate as they are. And so I've kind of just learned by doing, and a lot of things. I think if I look back, and I think a lot of artistic people are like this too. They that's kind of the best way they learn. You know, they see it and they go, ooh, you know, they want to kind of emulate what they see.
Exactly.
You know? And so being around a lot of high volume shops, doing a lot of tattoos, and then being around really good people that I can learn from and that are nice enough to talk and talk back and go, man, nope, if you try it this way, man, it really. So I've just kind of built my career that way, and I've been freaking lucky enough to be doing this for 26 plus years now, and I still love it. It still makes me nervous.
Me too.
I don't have it mastered by any fathom of the imagination.
Hell no.
I struggle with things still. I impress myself still. I learn every single tattoo still. And thank God, you know, or this would have been so boring years ago that I wouldn't be... I don't think I'd be.
Well, you know, that's the fountain of youth, is new knowledge and new abilities.
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
Really,
it's the challenges that you have in life. Once you get rid of those and you're just set, you're bored out of your mind.
If you think you know it all, you're never going to learn anything, and you're bored because
I know everything.
You're done. You know what else is there?
It's one of my favorite things about tattooing is being able to come in contact with other people who have just as much a love for the art as you do, and being able to bounce off each other. Like, you know what I mean? Because it keeps you growing. It's always, oh, I never thought of doing it like that, man. Oh, cool. Well, if I do it like this that I knew to do, and then that I just learned, and then put this, I got a new way.
Yeah, and then then you build on that, and you go back to that guy and go, hey, man, I was working with that, and I tried this, and
this
holy
turned
cow.
out like this, yeah.
So I love that about, you know, I mean, I get people that are very, you know, they keep their secrets and da-da-da-da-da, but really you're only shooting yourself in the foot. You're only holding yourself back.
You're losing that knowledge.
Right. If you keep this knowledge that could help the whole industry kind of bump up a little bit, then you're keeping that whole industry down and then yourself down because you're not looking out and going, okay, I'm still doing everything better than everybody else. Okay, cool. You know, you're not going, yeah, man, this time do it. This is odd. This is awesome. Everybody run with this and let me know what you find out because we can just keep on going up. But, you know, you've always got those people... Oh, in any industry, in any place, any job, any whatever, you're going to have the duds. Yeah. You know, you're going to have the hang-ons. You're going to have the leechy kind of whatever. Or I guess I'd say that are there for maybe reasons that aren't going to make their career what it could be if they were really doing it for passionate reasons and to better
the 1%ers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Know, I don't care where you're at in every crowd, 1% of them are jerks and general assholes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be that way with any industry.
Well, you know, not to get too philosophical, but really to have good people, you're going to have somebody's got to be the worst. So that doesn't mean you're a complete piece of shit. It just means,
balance it.
Well, you end up at the, you know, on the bell curve, you're the F.
And actually, the level of the 1% has dropped because... You know, when I started coming into the industry and getting tattooed 30 plus years ago, there was still that kind of mentality that, you know, if you steal from me, if you steal my designs, if you try to move in next to me, if you do this, you do that, I'm going to hire somebody to come over and break all your fingers with a sledgehammer.
Right.
And that kind of stuff just doesn't happen anymore. And that getting that stigma out of the industry took a long time, and it took a lot of work from a lot of people that were open with it, that were willing to share information and were very passionate, especially about the history and technique of tattooing. People like Lyle Tuttle and Ed Hardy and et cetera, of educating people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And taking it out of the darkness and the back alleys.
When I came in, it was a complete different world. Like I said, it was not a mainstream thing whatsoever.
Oh, no.
Whatsoever. So you could, you know, just for me to walk in as a 19, 18, whatever year old kid and say, hey, man, can you teach me that? They're going to look at me and go, who the F are you, dude?
Yeah.
And why do you think I would even imagine handing you the knowledge in which it takes to do this craft?
Right.
You're out of your friggin' mind.
Yep.
Or they'd ask you for $10,000 up front and put you to work in the back for 6 months and then try to get everything, make your life a living hell to the point where you quit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then if you threaten them, they'd send one of those guys after you with a sledgehammer.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It didn't do anything but hurt the industry and, you know, make people, even it put that stigma out. And I mean, I think, you know, when people walk into a tattoo shop and they've never been in one, they have I think they're taken back when they walk into a shop because, you know, they've kind of been fed this Hollywood kind of bad guy, whatever, creepy, cobwebby, you know, sweaty tattoo shop thing. It's taken time, but it's breaking down. And over time, I've seen people almost expecting that now. And I've heard people say, "Man, I walked into that other shop and it was like, before it was that's a tattoo shop. That's what it
Yeah,
is."
people are starting to realize the difference now in a nice art studio.
And that raises the bar, shop. And that's the same thing with people building shops and spending $80, $100 on their shop.
Yeah,
and then you're down the street, you've been getting away with tattooing out of a box that your washer came in. And you're like, I gotta rise or die. And that's great for the industry.
It is. It helps.
I just demanded, we rose, and things get better, and we don't want the old school artists they used to have, that the assholes we were talking about, the dirtier shops, not dirtier shops, but the dingier, how do I say,
just didn't take pride, I guess, in them and their
the old biker gangster mentality of it, what I mean, has really come a long way. We were talking about this the other day, like the art itself and just the industry has really made leaps and bounds in the last the 20 years I've been in it, it's night and day. Just like you were saying.
Totally.
I remember, it's lunchtime, all the apprentices out back, we're going to beat you up. Like, awesome. This is going to be fun.
Awesome, great.
You come back in talking to customers all bruised up and battered, and they're like, what happened to you? Oh, nothing, lunch.
You didn't serve an apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Okay.
I did an apprenticeship under a guy named Billy Powell. He was the head of a motorcycle club back home in Virginia. And, so you can imagine it was a lot of fun. All the motorcycle guys would ride in a couple times a week, in and out, and so-and-so's bike needs washed. You need to get out there and wash the bike. Oh, you didn't do a good job, or go feed my dogs, or pick up my kids from school.
A prospect.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and
you work for like 20%, and you do 15 people's jobs, and
to me, not to interrupt you, but
no,
to me that emulates mostly what college is. I never went to college. If there was a tattoo class and you had to get a degree to be one, I would have. But unfortunately, I had to get beat up, all my shit stolen.
Yep.
I had to live off of 99-cent Whoppers a day.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of other things. And in a way, I'm still paying off those debts. But hey, but because a lot of college, you'll ask anybody that goes, is like 80% of the shit is just hoops.
Yeah.
They're just jumping through hoops.
Yeah.
Well, to whittle that shit down. They're not going to hand out the doctor card or the lawyer card to just anybody. Oh, yeah, you want to be one of these guys that is going to be possibly very influential and has power and everything else.
Yeah.
Then, all right, prove it. Yep. And that's why they make it so hard.
Yeah, you got to run the gauntlet.
Same thing with a tattoo artist. Yeah, man. I want to be a rock star. I want to be a singer of a rock band and be able to do whatever I want. Teach me.
Okay, kid, check this out.
All right, well, out of these 1,000 people that want to do your job, because it is a great job and it is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Prove
sacrifice.
It. Jump up and down.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not willing to jump up and down for it? Well, someone else will be.
Out of 10 of us, maybe one guy stuck it out through all the bullshit.
Exactly.
And here I am.
Tell you what, for anybody who's thinking about
still tattooing.
Being a tattoo artist one day, it's not even as much rock star as it used to be.
It's not at all.
Really not.
The demand is so high
the
now.
closest thing about rock star lifestyle, when we say that, in my opinion, it's almost and the same thing as like you could say it's like being a stripper. We get like $1,000 in a day, and we go woohoo, and we spend $800 or $900 in a night, and the next day we're like. I hope we get a tattoo today.
Like a sailor on leave.
Yeah, exactly. Sailor on leaves,
Yeah, it can definitely happen that way.
That lifestyle.
That was probably the first 10 years of me piercing.
Yeah.
Was that mentality? It's like, oh yeah, I made $200. I'm gonna go buy 15 CDs that I don't really care about.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
just
got
so I
that
have
mentality.
them.
Tomorrow I'm gonna make some.
Hey, but it keeps me at work. If I saved my money, I would never be at work.
I wouldn't be tattooing as much at all.
We regret all of these purchases come springtime, come tax season.
Oh, I know, right?
Oh yeah, tax season you buy a ton of dumb stuff, and in the winter you sell it all to live off of.
Right. Pawn your VCR.
So, yeah, there's a lot of grasshoppers in this industry.
Right. So
it attracts grasshoppers.
So you did have an apprenticeship. You did.
Yep. I was working a first real kind of job that wasn't like fast food out of high school in a cubicle doing tech support. I hated it. It was definitely not my working with me. But my kind of manager, underboss kind of guy, one step above me, always saw me drawing pictures for people for tattoos, and his roommate was a tattoo artist, so he's like, you should go in there and talk to him, see about maybe an apprenticeship or something like that. And so I went in the shop, and that guy had no power over that decision or anything like that, but he said come back and chat with the boss. And I came back, I brought a bunch of artwork and showed him what I had, and he pretty much just said, yeah, come back tomorrow or the next day or some point this week and hang out with the guys and see if we like you, and if we like you, then we'll start the first step. And what was it? I came in the next day and I sat in my car for a good 15 minutes because I was nervous. I mean, I still had this mentality also that everybody was a rough, tough kind of guy. I mean, these are new people. I don't know anything about them. I'm trying to score a job with them. So came in, hung out, and one of them was like, well, I mean, if you're going to hang out, maybe you can sweep the floor or something for us. And so I kind of just pitched in a little bit of chores, and I just kept coming back and doing that. And nobody yelled at me right away. So, I mean, not right away.
It happened. It happened.
Yeah, it happens.
Once they realized I wasn't going away. So
we're stuck with him.
You know,
What about you, Davo?
My first introduction into tattoos was my father. He had actually that tattoo right there. It's an old Sailor Jerry Collins. He got it done in Fort Riley, Kansas, back in about, I think he said 51 for $1.50 in somebody's basement. By the time I saw it, it was further down, and he was right here on his forearm. He was driven to the point of being very ashamed of it, mainly by my mom, mainly because she didn't really like it. And it had blown out to the point where it looked like a dancing girl. So I was fascinated by tattooing probably from the first time I ever saw it. So, like, I was driven towards that in body modification and et cetera. Plus, I had kind of this concept that I'd gone... I was always attracted to things that were dangerous. I don't know why I was that way when I was younger. It just seemed to happen. But then having role models like Evel Knievel and Muhammad Ali is probably not a good place to start. Well, no, I didn't get into punk rock till later. Never really a big fan of Gigi Allen. Oh, okay. I have some Gigi Allen stories.
Oh, I bet.
So anyway, my attraction to danger got me into punk rock at some point. And punk rock at that point in time in the mid-'80s, it was a bunch of geeks hanging out, and that were pretty much outcasts. Tattooing kind of slowly became a part of that. Part of that punk rock hardcore kind of scene was, if you were really, really into it, then yeah, you got tattooed. There was a few people that maybe had an ear piercing or a nostril piercing or something weird. But I was introduced to all of this fairly early. For some reason, since I was the age of 12, I wanted my nipples pierced. I'm still not sure what the source of it was. I used to be really into, like, around that age, was really into Greek and Roman Empire type stuff. So I don't know if it's because some of those statues have what appears to look like nipple rings on it, or what the deal was. So you jump ahead. I turn 18. I get my first tattoo by Sherry a few days after I turned 18, and I was hooked from there. If I would have had more money at that time, I probably would have gotten more tattoos. And then she closed, and then I spent a lot of time in Omaha, Nebraska, hanging out with a few people I knew with bad ideas over there. And we hung out a lot around American Tattoo and Fine Line Tattoo, which was Ira. In that whole scene. He was an old school biker street shop guy that, he did everything from coon hunting to, he loved to make racist jokes because he knew we were all non-racist. He liked to play with you as much as he possibly could. Would do outlines and then do like swastikas in them just to be a jerk. So yeah, that was my kind of exposure to that for a while. And then I came across research's Modern Primitives. Which I have to say was a huge influence on my life. I was familiar with research books before that because of Search and Destroy and the punk rock stuff that they'd done before that, and some weird industrial books they did on the Throbbing Gristle and so forth. And reading that book and kind of being introduced to some of the characters in there and kind of doing more and more research, and then I moved on to I wrote letters to Fakur, I wrote letters to Jim Ward, and a bunch of other people, and a few of them responded with information on how to actually properly do this. And we're talking, this is like 89, 90.
Did Fakur ever hit you back?
Yeah, he sent me a letter back.
That's
I don't know where
That's
it's lost to time.
Oh, that's too bad. That'd have been neat.
Yeah, it would be neat to have
frame
that
it,
stuff.
That'd be really cool.
And that was kind of that philosophy of those early guys in the piercing. They were just kind of like the geek. And I associate that because as a music fan, everybody thinks you're really mean because you don't like other people's music or you make comments about it. It has more to do with you being so passionate about it and trying to force your music on everyone else.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I ran into Sherry, somebody that had been tattooed by Sherry at Orlando's when it was still in the Drake area. We used to go in there and drink underage. And he saw like the tattoo that I had at that time that was a cover-up of the first one and asked me who did it. And we started talking, and I go, yeah, I had the first one done by the Sherry lady, but I can't find her. She had closed down the shop that I originally was tattooed at and was tattooing out of her house at that point in time because the law had changed. So I got her card and started a relationship with her of getting tattooed. I think from that point, at least by the time she opened up the shop, which I think was around 90, the first or the second or third creative images, I don't know.
Right.
And then started getting tattooed on a regular basis. And I still had this desire to get this piercing, so I was still doing all this research. And then we started carrying on conversations about it. And the next thing I know, I at one point just like we were halfway through, I think, my back piece. And I go, I've been thinking about starting piercing. What do you think about that? And we started talking about it, and over like a 3 or 4 month period, we started talking more and more about it. She goes, well, if you can find somebody to apprentice under, I'd help you out financially with it, and you could work for me. And I found somebody in Omaha, Nebraska, Chuck Hayes. I went through a very, 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 very short and incomplete apprenticeship, if you would even call it that, and came back and started piercing on my own in May of '94 for Sherry. Wow. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those weird things where my life could have been completely different. It's like if I wouldn't have heard, the Clash and Black Flag, I'd probably be working in, an office somewhere and have a lot more security and probably a bigger house, a nice car, and et cetera.
Yeah, but think of all the fun stuff you'd missed out on.
I would have missed out on a lot because piercing for me has not only allowed me to continue to be around people that I think are talented and smart and witty, and we may not agree on everything, but are interesting people in interacting with new people every day. But it's also allowed me freedom from the standpoint of it's allowed me to, on the sidelines here and there, including live music. And of course, it's continued this thing where I have obsessions about something and decide that I can do it, like building websites, video production, podcasts, etc.
Yeah,
so it always lets me and allows me to expand even further.
Creative outlets.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I'm still selling my soul for punk rock. So it'll kind of.
That's the producer's phone, I think, or one of the key grips.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like some kind of weird.
Somebody in the office. Hey, turn off your ringer.
Hey, cut it out in here.
Is that Brenda again? We got to talk to her.
You don't want me to come in there.
All right.
I think we've pretty much covered all of that.
Beat the crap out of that.
That was a fun conversation.
I didn't serve an apprenticeship at all.
Yeah.
Didn't whatsoever.
I don't know if I would go as far as saying what I had was an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
It was more of a training program.
At least if someone says, so, did you have an apprenticeship? Go, yeah.
Yeah. I learned under somebody I paid for it.
I'd be like,
You're completely
I'm still learning.
right?
I'm still learning, man. I wasn't given a certificate of, okay, now you're a tattoo guy.
Nope.
Because that's another common question. So are you certified to do this? Like people think that you go out and you go to college and you get a diploma.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Yeah,
there's no such thing.
The only thing really a state, and it varies a lot state to state, but really at the end of the day, the only thing the states, first they're worried about getting their money.
Yeah.
And then on the second thing is they're worried about looking like they're caring about the public safety.
Yeah.
So as long as they get their money, they don't, and they're saying, yeah, man, we checked them, they're good. They don't care how the tattoo looks.
No.
They don't give a shit.
And at the same time, who are they to say what a good tattoo looks like?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really not their job.
And
their job is to make sure that they're making revenue from us so they can take it and hopefully do good things with it.
Right.
And make sure that, if you go there, you're not going to get sick. You might get a fucking shitty tattoo, but you're not going to get sick. And we've done our job. Your job is to do the research, make sure the person knows what they're doing, and they do a nice job on your tattoo.
Exactly.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a basic license.
They're trying to put these
hepatitis.
tattoo schools and stuff together. I don't know if they're doing it out here, but back east.
I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree with it at
scam.
all. I think it's a horrible idea.
I think so too.
For
Yeah.
piercing,
They don't teach you how to deal with customers that are irate about a bad
They don't
tattoo
teach
or
you any of that
something.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that goes back to a lot of time, like, apprenticeship or
That's the only
just
way you learn
being
that
able to
stuff.
spend, being almost an intern.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
Spending
like any
time in
other
a shop
industry,
and
like
learning.
massage or anything else, or bartending.
Hours in the
When it
field.
becomes very, profitable, and there's a ton of people wanting to do it. Well, there's the people going, man, if we could train all these people, they're going to do it anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
And
They
they
wanna make
just
money
want to
off of
make the money off of pumping out these people that are quote unquote certified now, and
Right.
it just floods the industry, and then it makes it harder for people to either get a good drink at a bar or get a
Right.
good tattoo.
Yeah, it waters
so
down the
it's
whole
more fishing and
Right.
hunting through because you're just producing all these people.
Right.
If they were required or whatever, which I don't agree in legislation necessarily, but that's another whole other thing. But if people went through an apprenticeship, like I said, it would give a lot more hoops, and a lot of people would get
Yes.
tired of those hoops and go, it's not worth it. And then you're going to end up with way more passionate, way better,
Absolutely.
way more trained people at the end of the day than you are having 8 out of 10 artists that don't really care and they're just
Yeah,
making
they're just
some
going
money.
through the motions.
And yeah,
See,
so it's a tough
tough.
kind of thing.
With piercing, they do have what they call seminars, and they keep
Right.
it at that. And yes, that's a great introduction. You can get there and you can learn about blood pathogens. You can learn about cross contamination prevention. You can learn about some of the basic techniques. But to turn you loose on the general public, there's too many variables. There's no way that anybody can train you to do that in a few days, or in some cases even a few years. And a lot of times it comes down to the person either having it or not having it, and you really don't know until you do it.
Right.
So, yep.
That's very good.
Right on. Well, yeah, I think that
that
horse
one does that.
is dead.
Thank you for watching or listening. If you did enjoy this, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Subscribe, hit that notification bell. We do post these every other Sunday. We do the video version one week, and then we do the podcast version the next week. Once again, this is brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and Death Before Decaf. Additionally, check out our merch store. We have various different designs there if you want to get one. And Christmas is coming up faster than you may think.
Yeah, and that reminds me, Christmas. Not only do our merchandise make great gifts,
Gift certificates also.
yeah,
Gift cards.
tattoo gift cards.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a tattoo fan on their list, and man, even a small one for a stocking stuffer, or talk to your friends and family and say, hey, let's all pitch in and get Johnny a kick-ass tattoo he's been wanting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep it in mind. That's
My sister's been
stuff.
talking about getting a tattoo, I think, for about 2 years, and it took me buying her a $20 gift certificate to get her in the door.
Yeah, it kind of seals the
Exactly.
deal for something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Helps
it's like,
them out.
now I got to use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Get
yeah.
them indoctrinated into the world of ink.
And even if you're not in the area, if there's a studio that you go to on a regular basis, or one that you've heard a lot about, most of them do offer that. So that's something really to think about.
Yeah, there's nothing a tattoo fan loves more than getting like free tattoos.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, thanks guys. Click the bell, all
Yep.
that stuff,
Check us out.
and
Don't forget we're doing walk-ins now that I'm back.
oh yeah, we got Jimmy here. So a lot of times we've got some time for jam-ins.
Yeah.
So
Something
hit
pops
us
in
up.
your head, come see us.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Other than that, y'all have a good day. If you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, or even nearby, we hope to see you for your body piercing and tattooing needs in the future.
Be nice to each other.
Have a good day, everybody.
Later, guys.